It's time for another episode of Tucson Means Business, featuring Tucson's top entrepreneurs and leaders in the business world. And now your host, Mark Bishop.
I think we've got a great show lined up for you today with Tucson Means Business, of course, brought to us proudly by the 49ers Golf and Country Club and their wonderful hidden jewel in the desert of the Rincon Grill. And don't forget, it's open to the public, all right? It's not a private members club here. The public may go and enjoy for weddings, bar mitzvahs, fiestas of all sorts. They've got wonderful rooms, and you'll hear about that a little bit later on in the show. And, of course, we're broadcasting live here from the Stewart Title Studio on Broadway. Stewart Title and Trust, one of America's most trusted people in business. And my guest today is Bob Dytko from Stewart Title. Hi, Bob. How you doing? We've got Mr. Beau Barger. Hi, Beau.
Hello, Mark.
Beau, today our theme is going to be on business brokers and business in general. And Bryan Vitagliano.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Bryan. Welcome. Good. Thank you for coming. Well, I was speaking this morning to the lady that represents the Bank of America all across America on TV and radio shows and interviews and what have you. And she was exceptionally high-spirited in reference to the outlook for 2020 from the small business point of view. And I thought it was just appropriate for today that we were doing this show, which is great because, after all, we're the backbone of small business, is the backbone of America. And you guys are, you're in the front row of it. And it's always fascinated me. I mean, I've been in business myself, but you are business brokers. That's unique. You're not just, you specialize in something that you do. Now, Bryan, as an example with you've had successful careers, though, in sports, service, and healthcare sectors, and you graduated with a Bachelor of Science with honors in marketing and a Master of Arts in kinesiology from the University of Maryland. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a mixture there.
Right. Had a little bit of a different path into to where I am now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so what is a Master of Business Administration with an entrepreneurial concentration from the University of Delaware? What is that exactly?
Absolutely. So it's a postgraduate degree, and at that stage, I was coaching at the University of Maryland, and I realized that there was something more to be had than coaching the college soccer team there, and I pursued the Master's in Business Administration. I always knew that I wanted to run my own business, and so I took the track in the entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
And so it really is just engaging, and that was a great program that ingrained us into active businesses and some mergers and acquisitions work, and that really prepared me for kind of the career that I am now.
There you go. That was early too. So really, after years of work later on in the sports and recreation industry, you returned home to Arizona and subsequently earned a doctorate of physical therapy from Northern Arizona Uni.
Absolutely.
NAU. Who?
Right.
Yeah, right. Couldn't resist it, could I? So where were you in your mind, Bryan? I mean, it seems you weren't sure where you really wanted to go with your career in that early stage.
Right. Well, I think it was a timing of what was going on in the economy at the time as well. So I knew that I wanted to be back home in Arizona, where I was born and raised, and all of my family was. And after I completed my MBA, I came out here, and I had visions of starting a multidisciplinary training facility for young kids, right? And that was right around 2010, the end of 2010. The economy wasn't great. Getting funding for that was not there. Mm-hmm. And, I needed to have some money, and I just decided, I had a passion for helping people in service. And at that point, I decided to retool and go back to school and get my doctorate in physical therapy. And then I began to work that. I was out there running a practice, my own concierge practice, as well as working in the clinic. And I just realized that, the mergers and acquisitions side to what I was doing prior, I really had a passion for. And the lead broker in our group, Strategic Business Brokers Group, has been in the industry for over 10 years. And I started to lean on him about opportunities outside of what I was doing that in line with my M&A kind of interest.
So you never really know where it's going to come from, do you?
You don't.
Life has got its funny way of, coming in through different doors at different times. Beau Barger, I mean, he's been a licensed business broker with Tucson Business Investments. This goes back to 2005, Beau. Right. And becoming vice president of the firm in 2012. It only took you 7 years. What kept you, mate?
And you had to buy out a previous partner, so that kind of stuff,
Right. Okay. You're a native Tucsonan.
Yes.
And in fact, you were named Business Broker of the Year by the Arizona Business Brokers Association in 2011, becoming the youngest broker ever to receive that honor in the association's history.
Sounds kind of funny, but yeah, it's
Very
true.
good. Congrats. Good on you. You still look pretty young, too. I mean, you shaved, do you?
Yeah, I shaved everything. Just for you.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, you ended up being the last broker in Southern Arizona to receive the Business Broker of the Year award. I mean, did that classification get dropped for some reason, Beau, do you know of? Or?
No, it's one of those things where it's we have a large group, the AZBBA, we call it, encompasses the whole state. The central chapter and the southern chapter used to have a northern chapter, but that went away a long time ago. But yeah, it's one of those where we just haven't given it out since 2011 for some reason. So,
well, you currently hold two of the business brokerage industry's highest professional designations. One is the Certified Business Broker from the AZBBA, and Accredited Business Intermediary from the American Business Brokers Association. They must help your business.
Yeah, they do. It's just being able to work with colleagues, and share ideas, share, different things. It's always a help. A lot of education involved, a lot of continuing education. So that's
ongoing.
Good.
Well, I mean, I guess with nearly 15 years in the business brokerage industry and having successfully sold just about every type of business located in southern Arizona, I looked at your list there with your site. I mean, CPA firms, IT businesses, to large manufacturing, distribution and service companies. You could tell a few stories, I bet.
Yeah, we've sold just about everything. Can't really, just pick one little category to do. In Southern Arizona, you've really got to be able to sell every type of business. And it's fun. You get to learn about lots of different industries.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting business because whereas a realtor selling a house is a house, okay? We'll be in a commercial building. I had a brokerage at one stage in my life. I've been a licensed realtor at another stage in my life. From a point of view of looking at businesses, I never really delved heavily into it from your side of selling them, but I've been in enough of my own. But there's a lot more to it than meets the eye because you really have to look after your clients from a point of view of making sure that it's for them and that the numbers add up, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, give us an idea of what you go into if someone says, well, Beau, I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that. How do you address that with them?
Yeah, sure. And it depends which side we're working for. If it's a buyer side, really kind of find out what their interests are, what their background is, what they're looking for. Some people want something completely different than what they've been doing, whether it's a corporate world and they want something, small and independent, whether they've, got a background in restaurants and they'll say, I want anything except a restaurant. I'm never getting in the food business again. Most buyers usually don't know what they want till we show it to them.
Interesting. Yeah, well, you do hear that story, it takes a lot of guts to be a restaurateur, make a living, make a profit, and want to stay in the thing, doesn't it?
Yep.
Tell you what. Now, being a licensed real estate agent, Beau, experienced in the sales and leasing of various types of commercial, retail, and industrial properties, do you have a leaning towards one or another?
No, it mainly has to do with our clients when they own a property. Most of our clients probably lease, probably just like Bryan, have a lease space, but about 25% own their own building. So we can also sell that for them, lease it for them, sell other properties they have, that sort of thing.
Interesting. 25% with their own buildings.
Yep.
You served 2 terms as the president of the Arizona Business Brokers Association in 2012 and 13, and you've also served as chairman of the AZBBA Education Committee. Tell us about that particular association, if you would.
It's been around in one form or another from the mid 80s. Actually, we formed several years ago, merged the Valley Board in Phoenix with our AABB association down here to form a state group. So I've been heavily involved in that. They've got quite a few more members up in Phoenix than we do down here. We've got about 20 or so in Tucson, but they've got about probably 50, in the Phoenix area.
And do you meet sort of once a year or something?
We do sometimes. We used to have a conference every year, but it's been kind of every other year for a while. Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine that'd be fun, you guys comparing stories and keeping up with the latest legislation, too. That's the other thing.
Exactly. That's part of the reason we formed the state group, to be able to work for legislative purposes.
So what does the position of state school administrator then entail? I mean, is it a big job, heavy job?
Not too heavy, thankfully, but it's we have our own school, the Arizona Business Brokers Association School of Real Estate and Business Brokerage, formed through the Department of Real Estate, so we can put on our own continuing education classes. You can get real estate credit for them because we all have real estate licenses like Bryan does, I'm sure. So we formed our own school, and I'm been in charge of the school now for, 9+ years, something like that.
Wow. Good job. Well, credit where it's due, Beau. The youngest broker ever elected or appointed to any of these positions in Arizona. And then you became a certified real estate instructor. As if that wasn't enough, you're hungry, aren't you? The Arizona Department of Real Estate back in 2015. Do you believe all these accolades help your business?
Yeah, I think so. I think the more, education obviously is a big thing. The more you learn, the better you can help your clients and know the market and just, be able to service who you're working for.
Well, I think clients rely on you, don't they?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They've got to be able to look up to you, right?
Yep. They've got to be able to trust you and,
Yeah. Whereas this next fella, I mean, he was born and raised in Tucson, and every time he's tried to leave, the truck breaks down. That's Bobby Dytko. How are you going, dude?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Stewart Titles, National Title and Escrow Services. You've been with them how long now?
I'm going on 13 years.
There you
14
go.
Years.
They've all become a part of who you are, haven't they, mate?
Oh, yeah.
You have a very important role here. Our studio, of course, is in Stewart Title in the corporate offices on Broadway. But I'm always noticing hundreds of realtors coming into their beautiful auditorium that they've got in reference to training. And this is what Bob does a lot. He's vice president of social media, plus a lot of other things now you're teaching too, aren't you?
Whatever they want me to do that day.
You're hands-on all the time with them. But you spend a lot of your time in the field.
As much as I possibly can.
So you always know what's going on. New businesses coming to town often before anybody else does. Factories, companies considering where to build, what to do. So therefore you're always abreast of the roads, the changes, things going on. I would have thought that, gee, you know what? You really could be interesting to be working with these guys in the business industry.
I'm surprised we haven't met before.
Yeah, it's a small town, Tucson, too. That does surprise me a little bit. You put yourself through college.
I did.
And rodeoed in younger years. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Rodeoed or rodeoed?
It depends on what side of Mississippi you're on.
Right, because 13,000 miles from here, we call it a rodeo, not a rodeo. Rodeo? I forget now. God, I've been here so long. You're a past president of BIC.
Beck, yeah.
And past board member of the March of Dimes.
Right.
Okay, and we'll share those two with us. A lot of people don't know what they are.
The March of Dimes, when it started out, it was every dime that came in was for polio. And back in the 1930s and 40s. Mm-hmm. When it was done with there, they decided they were looking for different ideas and different programs, so they started going after preemie babies.
Okay.
My daughter was a preemie, so when Julie was born, she was 4 pounds, 3 ounces, and she dropped down to 3 pounds, 9 ounces.
Right.
And if it wasn't for the March of Dimes at the time helping us out as much as we possibly could, including just coming in and sitting down with us and letting them know that things are going to be fine, it's going to take a month or two, and you have your baby at home, I would have never got involved. But as much as they came in and did some encouragement, even though we didn't need any financial help, we just needed that person to answer the questions or the person to let you go home and sleep so you can come back and hang. It worked out. So we got on the board. My daughter spoke in the March of Dimes and for the signature chef auction. I think it was 2014. We raised $78,000 that year. She was the ambassador. So she got up and spoke in front of 300
And is that
people.
Chloe?
That's Julia.
That's Julia.
I don't have a Chloe, but who knows? The 80s was really good to me. So. It's a possibility.
Well, I do know you have a dog called Batman.
Yeah.
Runs around with a red cape on, or black cape on. You love to visit rodeos.
Still do it.
Camp. You love camping, country concerts, barbecues, and building furniture. And you like writing, too. What do you write about?
Well, I've written 2 books. The third one is pretty much could be a novel. It's something different. But the first 2 I wrote a lot of short stories, a lot of just things that are happening as a single father and as a cowboy. So it's a cowboy life.
Yeah, man, single father and a cowboy.
Pretty much. It kept my feet grounded in order to raise my daughter. She's 19 years old now. Great personality. She's got her certificate as a vet assistant through the JTIP program here in Tucson. So I'm looking at trying to join that board down the line. Well,
your role here at Stewart Title is diverse, okay? I mean, you love doing what you do. I mean, radio, public speaking. You bring in commercial and residential business to Stewart Title.
Yeah.
You're out there, bashing the pavement every day, meeting business guys and talking to them. Southern Arizona growth, motivational marketing, creative marketing, apps and social networking for realtors and lenders. as a lot of the stuff that you teach.
Right.
What have you noticed in their world, our guests today, and Bryan and Beau, that's going on out there?
We have a commercial. It's a commercial roundtable every second and fourth Thursday of the month. So this morning I'm sitting down listening to what the guys' haves and wants are. It'd be a great idea for you guys to come down and sit, if you guys want, at any given time and tell them what your wants and needs are too. And we're noticing that we've got a lot more growth going on right now, Southwest and Southeast. More Southeast than anything else. Southwest is starting to pick up right now when it comes to retail and office space. Now up in Marana, as soon as Marana gets a couple of red tape versions away from them, Marana and I-10 is going to be growing. And once that happens, then you're going to start seeing the Marana area take off and run again too. So what are you guys looking for in business-wise? How many business do you have right now for sale? And how many people do you think you guys see a year come in looking for business?
Yeah, I mean, speaking for us, and if Beau can share this, I feel like there are many more buyers than the number of really qualified businesses and attractive businesses. I mean, shortage of buyers, we just don't see that. I mean, they're out there and they're active and looking. It's just finding the businesses that make sense. That once you kind of
so you're genuinely then really trying to match them. Right? That's what it sounds like to me.
It's much more of a relationship game than any other kind of commercial or residential play on it, because there's a transition period in most cases where you're not just handing the keys over and bidding a good buy. Right. But there are employees, there are lives, there's the what you purchased is the active body of the business. And you want to make sure it continues to move forward in the same capacity, if not better, from what you acquired it. So there is that transition that's important.
Do you guys market for businesses on the market? You say we've got buyers who want to buy certain kinds of businesses. Are you looking to sell?
Yeah, we have some buyers who are industry specific, looking for a particular manufacturing type of industry or that sort of thing. And then other buyers just honestly don't know what they want. They just want to own their own business.
Want to get into a business.
Want to get out. Tired of working for the man.
Tired of working for whoever they're working for and be their own boss for a while.
If you're listening and that's you, hey, take some notes. Listen, Bryan, now your company, the Independent or Strategic Business Brokers Group.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your background, you specialize in service-based businesses for those in the healthcare industry to restaurants and bars. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. On researching your site, I noticed there were 3 of you.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
A good-looking bird there. She runs the bars and salons.
Yeah,
the salons and the restaurants
Christy,
and so on.
Christy Spiro.
Yeah, you could have said her, mate. But thank you for coming. I appreciate that. So do you divvy this up? This is your section. That's her section. The other fellow, Brian Bondi, that's his section?
Right. And so Brian Bond, who you referred to. Yeah, we work pretty collaboratively. And because there are so many niches out there, markets, we can specialize, but Bryan has built the Strategic Business Brokers Group from the beginning, doing every kind of business. And so, much to Beau.
Now, this is based where? In Phoenix or here?
So we have a location and based in Tucson, but our main base is in Scottsdale.
And where did Brian Bond build it from? Tucson?
Scottsdale.
From Scottsdale.
From Scottsdale.
Okay, he's opened this here. So what about yourself? You work pretty busy hours, right?
Absolutely.
It's all around. You've got to be available, haven't you, 24/7, really?
You really do.
And that's so. What do you do when you're not selling? What do you like doing out of the business? What do you like doing with your spare time?
Right. Absolutely. So I have 2 young boys, third on the way. I love being with them. So I'm a family guy. That's why I came back. And
that's Lucas and Sebastian.
Absolutely.
Right? And your wife's name Amanda.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy working out, exercising, and playing soccer. So soccer's still in my blood.
Okay. So Brian Bond is the guy that actually started the thing, right? Back in when?
So that was back in 2011.
Okay.
I'd say. Had a rough guesstimate there, and he was working for another group prior before going out on his own.
Okay.
And with the design is just to provide a better service to the client, and you recognize some holes in how really business transactions are being treated across the board, and really designed to
So it's not a private. I'm trying to get the fact it's a group, and you're individuals. You're all brokers. Okay.
Correct.
And you work together as a group per se. It's not like one company.
Right. And so with being a business broker in Arizona, you have to be a licensed real estate agent. And so we hang our license with American Realty Brokers, and within that in the market, we're recognized as strategic business brokers.
Okay, so that's how you hang your license with, and then you work from there and go from there. Do you ever get queried by the potential buyer or seller of the business that, how do I say this, that you're seen as mainstream still, you know? I mean, independent brokers, right?
Right. And so, no, I mean, I think a lot of them that come, they may not know what they don't know. So they're often searching through social media, Google, and then word of mouth. We get a lot of business through word of mouth. After you sell a good business and you treat the client right. Oftentimes business owners know business owners.
Right.
And if you treat them right, then that's how.
Well, I was going to say, surely yours is a business where if you've looked after them and they're happy and you've done a good job, they're going to refer you, aren't they?
Right. Absolutely.
Do you still go visit them, follow up, see them, go and have a lunch occasionally, or?
We do, yeah. I like to follow up and Christmas cards and just touch base.
All that jazz, because if he wants to sell it again,
absolutely,
you want to be the one to be. I'd be upset if someone else was selling that business, I tell you. Beau, you make a strong claim on your site that since 1982, Tucson Business Investments has been the most successful business brokerage firm in Tucson, in fact, for Southern Arizona. Your team of licensed agents have sold more businesses than anyone else in the Tucson metro area and Pima County. Let's say I'm a potential buyer and I read that. How can you justify that there's some sort of, I mean, is there a record kept with reference to business brokerage's results, or is it just marketing?
Luckily, I guess, unfortunately, there's no, website you can go to with a scorecard or anything, which would be handy. But no, we've sold close to or a little over 700 businesses since 1982. Since 82? Yep, since 82.
Okay.
So, which is more than anyone else has sold in Pima County. Mm-hmm. Not just since 82, but since forever, since business brokerage started. So, we've been real successful at it for a long time. Something that we're going to keep doing. We're almost 40 years of business now. So, and really we do some work in Phoenix, but really we're pretty much 99% Southern Arizona, Tucson area.
Mm-hmm. Now, your dad, he's the CEO?
He's the designated broker. He owns the firm. Along with me, I'm a partner. So.
Okay, and he kicked it off probably before you were born, right?
He actually is the second owner. The firm was started in '82, which I wasn't quite ready to get into it yet in '82. But Cliff Bergstrom started the firm back then. My father owned a jewelry store here in town, sold those, and was looking for a business to buy. Started meeting with business brokers. Instead of finding a good business, he ended up getting some job offers.
Right.
Went to work at Tucson Business Investments with the idea of buying out the original owner in 3 years, which he did. And then I came on board several years after that.
Very good. He sounds like a smart businessman you had.
Yep.
Let's talk about how to prepare a business for sale. When do you start planning your exit strategy?
It's never too early to start planning. There's some things that are kind of general business practices that are a good idea, like have real clear, accurate books and records, which would seem logical, but as I'm sure Bryan has stories. Not always the case.
No.
You get some people and it's on the back of a cocktail napkin, or sometimes you're lucky if you get that.
Right.
Back of a cocktail napkin.
It's
take it or leave it. That's what it's worth.
Yeah, here's what it is. Here's my sales. I think they're about this much for 10 years ago, and there you go. But so of course it's important to have a good CPA. Make sure everything's up to date. Make sure your taxes are paid. Have a good idea of your equipment, your employees.
Right. No lien on the business. Well, I mean, we're talking housing where, okay, you'd advise them maybe to paint, fix this, fix that, clean up the garden, do this, do that. When it comes to a business, I mean, surely the heart and soul of it is the real monies, the real turnover, what I really took, not under the counter, as they say, which we're going to try and figure what that means in a minute. But, what are the main things you have to drive them nuts with? What do you have to push them with?
Well, of course, it all starts with the cash flow. That's a big part of it, and then the type of industry that it's in. But besides that, it's what is the owner's role? What is the buyer what do they see themselves doing going forward? What are they going to be interested in? Filling the owner's shoes. Hopefully, it's not an owner who is the business, as it goes home with them every night because they're 100% of it. Diversify as much as you can is always the thing. You don't want 90% of your sales coming from one customer. You don't want to have relationships with every single client where if the owner leaves, they're going to call somebody else. You know, you want other guys in the company that can handle some of the load. That's what buyers are looking for. So
what is your overall process then of selling a business? What are the first 10 steps?
Yeah, sure. Selling a business really starts with, I got a call yesterday. Somebody wanted to sell. The first process is meeting with them in person, learning about them and the business. Not only, what they do, but, what the seller's role is. Is there a spouse involved? Other family? How many employees? The growth trend, all that goes into evaluating the business. The next step is really, coming up with an appraisal of the business.
How do you do that?
Well, it's
if they own the building, that's another story.
Yeah,
we're talking the real estate.
Building's a whole nother deal.
They don't own the building, but they've been there a few years and they're turning over a pretty good turnover, and they're in a business that's got a future. How do you appraise it?
It's one of those where there's no easy formula for it. There could be two businesses, even of the same industry, both making, say, $100,000 profit, but they could have different values depending on, is one going up, one going down? Is the one owner working 80 hours a week, the other one's working 10 hours a week?
So it's based on a business plan and maybe even a marketing plan?
Yeah, it's just really the whole picture of the business.
Okay.
How organized are they? Is everything, how does it, look actually physically sometimes is important. When you bring a buyer, can they see themselves sitting in that chair doing what the, what the seller is doing? It's not like a house, like Bryan was saying, where, you just hand over the keys. There's a transition period. You have to be able to, they don't have to be best friends, but you have to be able to work together for a month, couple months, really make sure everything flows smooth. And
so do you encourage that? Bryan, do you encourage the potential new owner, working with the guy before it's sold or before it's a handover or?
Well, we set the
Official,
expectation with the seller from the beginning. And in that initial consultation, as Beau mentioned, the conversation is, what are you willing to do as far as a training and transition period?
Okay.
And just managing their expectations, because, I ask them to put themselves in the buyer's shoes. If this is something completely new for them and they're paying you, quote unquote, top dollar or something you feel that is worth your business,
right?
Wouldn't you want some support in managing that? And oftentimes they're always like, yeah, whatever works, I'm happy to stay on. And then we just manage that expectation so that we're not overstepping, right? Sometimes sellers like, I'm willing to stay 6 months, a year. Like, well, okay.
How does something like that?
So I never want to leave.
Right. How does that work from a financial point of view? Yeah, does the person paid a wage or something, or does it come out of the profits? How does it work?
Right. It's part of the
a new
negotiation.
buyer says, look, I'm going to stick for 6 months. I really want to know this business before you leave me alone. Right. Has he bought the business prior now?
So that's part of it in our process. That would be spelled out in a letter of intent, which is the first step to really come into offer and acceptance. Okay. And then that begins kind of the normal escrow, where an earnest deposit will be sent over, held at escrow, and that begins the due diligence process that now we will start to get all of the due diligence items, the financials, the tax returns, everything to reconcile the books from the seller. But in that letter of intent, we have spelled out a training and transition period, not to specific hours per day, but a period that they're willing to do. And generally, it's for non-compensation. It's what are you willing to do because we've agreed on this price for the business.
Right. So you've agreed on a price, because I was going to ask how our business is actually priced. But what would scare me there is that 4 months later, he or she doesn't want the business anymore. They've realized it's not for them.
That's great. Call us up. We'll sell it again.
It wouldn't be the first time. Yep.
That was Beau Barger, by the way.
Sorry about that.
How do you pre-qualify a buyer?
Absolutely. No, good question. So in our process, I have a phone conversation with every inquiring party. Okay. And the first initial ask is, what do you have liquid to put down in a business today? And oftentimes you get I've got enough. I've got it. Or I have the lender. And we just try to constantly get a hard figure. Just we need to know. It's not going to affect how this deal goes down and how the negotiations are. But it's like a house. If you do not have the money and you're not approved for the loan of a house of $600,000, why are we looking at that? And the same for the sellers. And it's even more important that the confidentiality of that business is protected for the seller. We're not putting signs and windows. We're not
Right.
publicly announcing that a business is being sold for those reasons. So it's really important that we vet the buyer that way. And then we can also, as we move down into after a letter of intent has been executed, there's a request for proof of funds.
Okay.
When we come back, I want to ask both of you, Beau, Bryan, have you come across the experience of when you've sold a business, what it means to the staff? How many staff, the concerns, are they staying, are they not staying, how they meet the new owner, all that type of thing. It's Tucson Means Business with Mark Bishop. We'll be back in just a sec. Well, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Tucson Means Business. And, of course, we're very grateful and very proud to have as our sponsor the 49ers Golf and Country Club, a icon tradition here in wonderful Tucson, Arizona. And my particular guest today from the 49ers is the Director of Membership and Tournaments. And his name is Casey Polivchak. Hi, Casey.
Hey, Mark. How's it going today?
It's going well. Thank you very much. I want to talk about memberships. A lot of talk about golf clubs going down and people not playing again, and we're increasing. What's happening there?
You know, the club over the last 7 years has just really made a nice big increase in membership. It's been steady, but if you look at our numbers, you know, year over year, we're definitely on the climb.
Is there anything specific that you can point the finger at for that, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we've got a new owner, and he came in and he's just revitalized the club. The club was on the verge of going bankrupt or closing when the new owner stepped in, and he's just continued to invest in the club, the facilities, the golf course, the restaurant, and he's just been a blessing for the neighborhood, the community, but definitely the members of 49er Country Club.
Well, it's quite unique. It's a beautiful course with trees everywhere for shade. Of course, a lot of people think in the desert. I mean, this particular show goes all over the place, so you never know who's going to hear it, or which country for that matter. But should they be visiting Arizona? And I've heard a lot about the 49ers Golf and Country Club. It's easy to find. It's on Tanque Verde Road, heading east out of town. Anybody can point that way. Your GPS can get it, not a problem. It's about 12,000, and you can see it because of the entry gates. Very nice entry gates there, and you'll see the club on your left, which is the Rincon Mountain Grill, as you go into the actual golf club. And then you'll find the pro shop and so on, so it's easy to find from that point of view. What would you say to visitors? We do have a lot of visitors, don't we, from the Midwest, from the North, the colder climates and so on, as we call friendly our snowbirds.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What would you say to them about if they haven't been to the 49ers yet?
Okay, so 49er, I would liken it to a Midwestern-style golf course because of the tree-lined fairways. When we get our snowbirds in, if they're coming out for a golf trip, a lot of times I recommend they come play 49er if it's a warm-up round, if they haven't played for, a couple months because of the snow on the ground. The thing about it is it's tucked into the corner of the mountains out there. That's what Rincon means.
All right.
In the corner. But the golf course is, it's more traditional tree-lined fairways, elevated tees, elevated greens. It's a great golf course to play. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to, have a bunch of huge forced carryovers, desert and cactus and, It's
not what one thinks.
No, it's not.
For the desert, yeah.
You got to keep it straight. It'll challenge you that way.
You got to keep it straight. And of course, if if it talks your cork at the moment, simply go to the 49ers website, which is
49ercc.com. That's spelled out FORTYNINERCC.com.
There you go. Okay, so do that. There's some lovely photographs, great stories to look at, and it'll give you everything about the club. You can't fail. All right? We're going to be back with Casey another time. You're listening to Tucson Means Business. I asked the question before the break. We had, I've been in a situation where you notice there's new bods running around the CEO's office and there's a bit of a buzz, but it's not quite sure. Oh, the business has been sold. Oh, no, there goes my job. What do you do, Beau? What have you experienced over the years? How do people come to you and say, have you sold us out? What's going on?
Sometimes when people hear a business is for sale or being sold, they immediately think the worst for some reason when, in reality, most businesses will sell at some point. It's much better to have a place that you're working at sell than the owner just retire and say, thanks, I'm going to close it. And the thing that most employees don't realize right away is that really they're worth more to the new owner than they were to the previous owner.
Right.
Because the new owner usually doesn't know what he's doing. They're almost training the new owner along with the previous seller on the day-to-day operations, what everybody's role is, and what they do.
Yeah.
So he or she really is very dependent on the employees and staff to keep performing the way that they have been.
That makes a lot of sense, I would think, Brian, because it costs money to try and find somebody and train.
Absolutely.
All over again.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and that training and transition's discussed, right? And how the staff is being made aware of the new owner and how that transition occurs, whether it's we have been sold, this is your new owner, meet Mark.
We don't like him already. We don't like him.
Or it's you're bringing on a manager. You're bringing on a manager.
All right, yeah.
And transition.
I guess it's harder if it's been a mom and pop for years. Right? I mean, the heart and soul of the Down Blaze is the daughter and the son and the this and the that, and maybe one other. She's been there, God love her, does everything. The new guy says, I've got to cut. I'm sorry. I have to, there's not enough profit there. I have to drop some people. I'm terribly sorry about it. I mean, I would hate to be in a situation like that. Have you seen that, Bob, in your travels? I mean,
Cody's Beef and Beans is a good example. They turned around and sold out just recently. And the two owners that came in, Dean and William, both of them came in, walked in, took their time, relaxed, got to know everybody there, told them it's going to be an easy transition. We're not making changes in what we're doing right away. We're not getting rid of people. We're going to turn around and work it with you guys for, like you say, a couple of months, figure out how it's going to be. We're going to tell you what we want to do. And then when we buy it, we'll turn around and change a couple of things maybe on the menu, but why turn around and mess up the atmosphere we're excited about taking?
Yeah.
We actually handled that sale.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Small world.
Yep.
Good guys.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. Yeah. Good buyers, good sellers, everything.
And did they do that? Was it?
Yeah. Everything was smooth. It's usually they don't want to change anything for, sometimes they never change anything.
Right.
I've had businesses where you go in there 5 years later and you couldn't tell there was a new owner at all.
Right.
Others will, at least 6 months, let it go,
Yeah.
Until they start making any changes, really.
I guess this is where, Bob, that big old cliche sticks its head through the wall. Why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
There's
no reason
I'm buying a darn business that's so good, I want the thing. It's showing good profit, but you might see one or two little things you'd like to change that is an improvement.
Everybody's going to change it just a little to there so that gives it the flair that they want to have.
Right.
And also sometimes it's a show who's in charge and what we expect, but also you see a lot of managers these days and owners become just the leaders. Here's what I want. Here's what I'd like to see. I see you already have it. Let me learn from you. Mm-hmm. So the ego's kind of gone away. So there's not as much ego anymore as there used to be in the past.
We have Bryan Vitagliano from Independent Strategic Business Brokers Group. It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
And Beau Barger from Tucson. What's your company's name again?
Tucson Business Investments.
There you go. Just testing. He's wide awake, truly. Yeah. Let me ask you both this question now. Do you ever get involved with the marketing of the businesses or the suggestions for day-to-day running, or are you strictly on the outer when it comes to that type of thing for businesses?
It depends. I think one thing that most buyers are looking for is a business that can still be grown. They don't want something that the sales are completely tapped out. So a lot of that is we'll ask the seller, what would you do if you were 30 years old and had all the energy in the world and didn't already own this business for 20 years? What would you do to grow it? What are some growth areas you'd look into? Because that's part of the pitch of the business is, look, this business is doing great. It's making this much, but it has the potential to make this much more. And here's some avenues that you can immediately go after to increase the business.
Okay.
Right.
Well, when you've both been in the game a long time, you've seen all sorts of businesses, variations, before they were painted up and cleaned, after they've been painted up and cleaned, God knows what, right? You'd have some ideas, naturally, because you've automatically been trained on the job, right? You take Bob here as an example. I mean, he's vice president of social networking. So he has all these realtors. I mean, there's 5,000 of them in southern Arizona. It seems that every one of them comes through Stuart Title here because of the training. But Bob, I mean, you're forever on their back about social networking, how important the follow-up is, the consistency of what they do. It's not just sit back and wait for the phone call, is it?
It always gets me right off the bat is when somebody comes in, I ask them themselves, how are you going to market? How are you going to market yourself? We had rib place that was here in town that you and I had a show with, and the first thing I asked him is, how are you marketing? And as he went through his marketing plan, it makes a lot more sense to me, especially knowing that Tucson's growing. So things comes out buying a business. Why are you selling it? Is it the road's going to be built? Is it that you think it's going to take away from your business? How are you going to market around that if you were staying here? Those are questions that I would want to know, that I'm so interested in asking you guys. Do you see that a lot? For example, Grant Road's going to be changing around. There's going to be a lot of changes. Do you see a lot of people saying, I'm looking to sell, or I'm looking to move somewhere else? What do I do?
Yeah, if there is a situation like that, which I'm sure Bryan does the same thing, it's there's something that we know is going to be, or the owner knows is going to be detrimental to the business going forward, they have to disclose that.
Okay.
An example we use oftentimes is the road in front of the business going to be cut off or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And sometimes that will cause somebody to want to sell, but it's something that we have to be really aware of and make sure that the buyer's aware of it well before they get too far into the process. There's no secrets. We have to represent our clients. We only work for the seller or buyer side individually on the transaction, so we don't represent both sides. But you still have to be honest, with the other side, and make sure you've disclosed everything that's important like that.
Yeah, that's all your due diligence. I mean, you're all your training and your exams and the money spent and the time and the effort. Sometimes people underestimate what you've put into your careers.
Oh, sure.
And what you do to earn a buck.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So due diligence is critical, even though the buyer. And that's why I want to ask you this next question. We've seen with modernization, roads changing, this and that. You look at a strip mall or you look at a particular group of shops, you think, oh my God, how are they doing any business? The road's all chopped up in front of them. No one can park. And it's really, really bad. What happens in a situation like that? Re the council or anything? Do you do they compensate at all, these poor business guys and women who have lost business because of that, or does?
No,
no. Unfortunately, no, they don't.
Not that you know of. Okay.
If they're in a good situation and the landlord of that strip mall is reasonable, then they can give them some concessions and some abatement for that.
Some rent a little bit and that sort of thing. But we had one example of something that was not a help at all. A couple of years ago on the Grant Road between whatever it was, Oracle, when they've actually finished that section of it to stone. They had a business come in, and one of the things they did to really help that business, which was funny, is they offered them a nice free business appraisal from some national firm that came in and was nice enough to tell them their business was worth about 5 times probably what it was really worth, which was not worth the paper it was written on.
Right.
So that's the kind of help that usually they offer.
I see. This sounds like a bit of a fishy hook to me, Beau.
Hopefully they keep them there. So
yeah, they're saying, hey, stay here, your business is great, and there you go.
Now I'm going to ask you one. This will teach you due diligence for you, because now, Beau, you've been here most of your life. You've been here quite a few years now, Bryan, but we have a situation, don't we, in the summer months where a lot of restaurants go under. New ones start up in the fall and they turn over. You've seen a lot of this, right? Is it getting better, do you think? Is the future showing this will not always be the case in good old Tucson?
Well, I think that there's a shift in the attractiveness of what the size of the restaurant. So we've kind of gone away from the 6,000 plus square feet big buildings. So now it's really attractive between 2 and even 3,500 square feet, manageable, and those are going to survive.
And that would seat about what? How many packs in that, would you think?
Gosh, probably 100.
Okay, 100 max sort of thing.
150.
So what the accent you feel is on more intimate?
Well, it's less size. So because obviously the greater the space, the higher the rent, and the more you have to do, the more food you have to sell to pay the rent, and that just chops away from.
What do you do then, Beau, if you've got clients who can't rent their properties now?
Well, it's a problem, and like you said, rent is always an issue. Whether customers are coming in the day, every day or not, the rent is still due at the end of the month, no matter where it's July or December.
Right.
So, every year, like you're saying, that seasonality, I think for something like restaurants is just, I think it's always going to be there. We get calls every year from restaurants around the university area. As soon as the students leave, they said, hey, how am I going to make it through the summer? Because they're not, unfortunately.
Right.
Then, come fall, they have got new tenants in there, but, it's something that they really kind of a plan to stick through, those summer months that are.
What do they do? What you must know. What do they do? It'd be a hell of a decision to make. It'd be scary.
Oh yeah, they've got a for university area for one thing. They got to market more towards just the regular townies, as you'd call us, the people that are here all year all year long, not just the students. That's one thing they can do, and just try to do anything to drum up business.
Put away for a rainy day also.
Yeah, exactly. Put away for a rainy day. If you can get your landlord to give you a concession of, maybe the rent is 50%, during the summer months, you catch up to it during the busy months.
So that sort of negotiation does go on then?
Yeah, sure.
Between landlords and things. But if I was a landlord there, Bob, I think it's a smart move. You want to keep that guy? You want to keep me going for the next 3 years, maybe?
I believe that it's starting to liquidate down where they're actually doing that more often.
Really?
We opened up 48 restaurants in 2018, 56 so far this year, and I think there's one or two that may still open before the end of the year here. So we're seeing it grow.
We are expanding. We are building out into outer areas. But what else other than restaurants?
Well, we're seeing... Before we leave the restaurant part, we're seeing less of the franchises coming in and more of the mom and pops.
More local mom and pops,
but we're also seeing a lot more of industry coming in. So we're seeing industrial coming in. As a matter of fact, we're pretty low. We used to be around 6.2% of open space for industrial. We're down to 5.4%. So as one person comes in, a bigger place is being taken over.
Okay.
We're also knowing that a lot more office space is being opened up and taken over. We're sitting around 8% vacancy of office space. It would have been a little less than that, but when Geico left where they're at over off of Speedway and moved over here, they left a little office space open. And that one, they're just preparing to get ready to put it back on the market and sell again. And once that happens, or lease it out, we'll see that go away. But we're also seeing retail where the big box stores going down. So we're seeing the vacancy going down. The big box stores that closed when it comes to like the Fry's over here off of Alvernon and Broadway, or the one off of Safeway, now becoming gyms and fitnesses.
Okay.
So we're seeing a different change. We're seeing a lot more people coming in one-on-one. Things that you can't buy on Amazon, you're seeing start to come up and show up here.
Speaking of that, I don't think I'm nuts with this, but you're not going to tell me that landlords and developers are going to leave malls empty forever.
No, they're not.
Why not convert them to apartments, feed the restaurants that are even in there? And what was it I saw the other night?
Don Bourne's doing that with the Foothills Malls.
Is he really? Yes, and I saw on the news the other night, though, this big, huge one somewhere in the States. I just caught the end of it. They've turned the whole darn thing into a playground like Disneyland. You ski in there, you do everything. It's amazing to save them all,
You got that up in Phoenix? Wrong city right now.
No, but so really I'm getting at this. Do you ever speak to Bryan, Beau? Do you ever speak to guys that are even thinking that way? That maybe I can turn these into apartments.
Sure, kind of Amazon-proof the business, so that, like Bob was saying, it's not something that they can come in and get online. It's more of an experience destination as opposed to just retail. They can't just go and buy that widget online from Amazon for whatever. They've really got to go there to do something like that. Penny's location on River and Stone, went out, the big Penny's home store. Now it's a trampoline kids jumping center.
Great example.
Yeah, so that's been something that I don't know if it's a fit for all the malls, and I think some malls are doing better than others. But even like theaters, are a huge draw to malls. They want to keep in there.
Well, yeah, because it is a worry. And I know when we talk about Amazon, we tend to think of the widgets per se, but there's a lot of businesses with e-commerce, even service industries, that are a hell of a lot online where the bricks and mortar doesn't exist anymore.
You'll see a change around the states. When I say around the states, here in Tucson, we get from Mexico alone, 2.6 billion comes into Arizona from Mexico on a yearly basis.
Right.
We're seeing about 7 million a day coming into Arizona. With that idea in mind, you're seeing a lot of people who are not coming to what they can shop online and get. Half the time, they can't even shop and get it online from there.
Right.
Over at the right time. They'll get it, but it's going to take a little longer. So they're the ones that were coming in right now and they're buying. That's why you see a lot more in the mall. Or people from Mexico are buying. Costco, you see a lot more from Mexico from buying, even in some of the restaurants and hotels. So cater more to that kind of an attitude. Bring in the experience while they're here, which is exactly what Beau was talking about.
Yep.
We'll see it. It'll
change too, yeah. So Bryan, and Beau for that matter, have you both dealt with the big new surge of the breweries? The bar used to be a bar in my day. Now it's a brewery. Okay, have you both been involved with anything there?
So just from there hasn't actually been a specific brewery, but just the bar and restaurant. But I know that, there is this influx in craft beer and really kind of that shift. And so just from the standpoint of individuals looking, I recently sold a couple of liquor licenses. And so that's been kind of a trend and really trying to added service to restaurants or even kind of hookah lounges and stuff.
Are you seeing service more than just one location that somebody's doing great, maybe northwest of Phoenix and want to open up somewhere else and call you for that?
They do, and they generally call on a listing saying that it's attractive to them and they're looking to expand. And what we do proactively is I'll reach out to business owners and ask them if they're in the business of expanding. Are you looking to acquire, to move into the Tucson space? I know you have a presence in Phoenix, Tempe, and go about that because, it helps me as well because it's an easy call. And if they aren't looking to, oftentimes they'll say, well, you know what? I've actually given some thought about selling.
Well, I guess you're mining, aren't you?
Oh, that's
always.
That's what you're doing. Who should the seller seek out, do you think, in preparation for an exit strategy?
Business broker.
Yeah. So, a broker amongst.
Duh.
I like to think about a kind of coach as a team, right? And Beau mentioned this at the beginning, but there really is in process of selling. You want to have a good CPA. If you have somebody that's managing your financials, your investments, because you're going to get a lump sum. And what are you going to do with that? And $250,000 or $500,000, depending on where you are in your stage of life, might not carry you through your retirement. And
you might have to pay out your equipment that's in there. You might have to, God knows what else you got.
Capital gains on that and what you do with it. So I think involving yourself with a full team of, okay, let me get with a business broker, figure out what my business is going to sell for in today's market, and let's get that sold now. What do my books and records look like? If they're already clean, you have a CPA. What is going to be the allocation of the purchase price? How am I going to manage that in order to manage my the tax implications going forward? And then now that we have this money, what's our plan? And so it doesn't all have to be at once, but involving those different groups is really beneficial.
So, Beau, what are some of the common misconceptions about calculating the sales price of the business?
Well, usually that there's always some one easy, factor that can, determine the business. Everything is 3 times cash flow, or my uncle's brother's son's, neighbor's friend sold one for 4 times, and that's like, I'm sure they probably did, but that was. Every business is completely different.
Right.
2 restaurants aren't worth the same amount. 2 manufacturing companies could be worth completely different values, even doing the same type of level of sales.
Right.
So
right.
There's the biggest misconception is that it's easy.
So the one price fits all is wrong, huh?
You really have to know the market and what's things are selling for. Like Bryan will say, stuff in Phoenix is different than in Tucson.
But a generic rule of thumb would give you maybe 4 to 1. If it came up to scratch.
Yeah, it depends. I'd say. It all depends on how much the business is making. If it's something that's not making very much at all, like under $50,000 net, sometimes it's 1 times. If it's they have something making $500,000, it might be 4 or 5 times.
Are there many financing options out there for your clients?
There are some. We always wish there were more, but there's always SBA, different lenders, different banks that want to do that. There's not that I'd recommend it, but there's seen some get hard money loans, that sort of thing. But that's dangerous. That's high,
isn't it? High interest.
High interest, and
Yep. So. And what are some of the typical mistakes that people make when they're selling their business?
Be unorganized, just being not prepared to sell. Say, hey, I know I'm doing this. My tax returns will be ready in 3 months or something. Well, the buyer's not going to wait 3 months. They're going to move on and buy something where the guy's ready to sell and he's organized. So
he may see something else that just talks his talk sort of thing, and you left it out. Right. Let's talk about your website, please, if you would, Bryan. businessbrokerphoenixaz.com. Okay, now we don't want this to be a throw-off from Tucson, but that's the corporate website.
No, so that's my specific website for restaurants and bars in that area. And so, we have the other website is Strategic Business Brokers Group in Tucson. Yeah, so I'll be able to get that to you, that website. But
well, we'll get that up on site because this stays on our site, on the network throughout the States, and of course our global imprint. on the different platforms that we do go on, but your photos will be up there, and of course the writing and publishing will be there for good, so we'll make sure we get the right addresses up for people to contact you. You never know where they're coming from, trust me. Instagram is there, of course, and you've got your Twitter, but LinkedIn.com, I would think LinkedIn would be good for you, would it? Many leads come off LinkedIn?
Not as much.
Not as much? Yeah.
Not as many from sellers. It's more of other
lenders,
lenders and business brokers.
Right, okay. Same
business
thing.
coaches. And,
yeah, that's interesting. And Beau, you too, same thing?
We don't get as many quality leads probably off LinkedIn as opposed to just people fishing for, not fishing, but just in other industries that want.
Right. It's competitive businesses, Tucson Business Investments, they've had a 37-year history of successfully representing both buyers and sellers of Tucson businesses. So if you are interested in purchasing or selling a business, what do you recommend? www.tucsonbusiness.com?
Yeah, it's a pretty tough email or a website to remember. TucsonBusiness.com.
Couldn't get much simpler, could it?
750-1764. Please give us a call.
Okay.
But yeah, we'd be happy to meet with you. Sit down. There's no charge for consultation. Sit down, talk to one of our licensed agents, and let us help you.
I'm going to ask you one last question each, and I want you to think about it, both Bryan and Beau, before I come back to you. Bob, got a joke? No, my question is this. If you had it all over again, because you're both highly educated fellows and have done a lot in your lives, in your working career lives, you can be in on this one, Bob. But, Bryan, I'm going to ask you firstly, if there was ever a time when you look back and you were at the fork of the road, would you do anything else? Is this the career that you were supposed to do?
This is. Yeah. This is absolutely.
That in your heart?
I absolutely do. And I had the road behind me to prove it. And so, I believe that just the background of owning a business, being involved in different industry, and has really led me to here. And I always believe that if you learn the process and can do something very well, and you can continue to learn in that industry. So being a business broker, the processes and how you treat people and how you move through transactions and the relationships built can constantly evolve and get better. But I get to meet different people, different backgrounds, different businesses.
So you enjoy that. That's the buzz for you.
Every day. Every day is different, but it's the same because our process and how we treat people is the same going forward.
Well, that makes sense. That's why you love it in what you do, because I meet a lot of business people in what I do, and I can tell you there's a lot of people that would love to get out of what they're doing tomorrow if they could. Right. Beau, what about you? When you look back?
Yeah, I agree. It's I really like what I do. Like Bryan was saying, there's some things that are similar to every deal, but every deal is different. Every business is different. Every buyer and seller, the transaction, the motivation, things surrounding it. Every deal is very different. Some are desperate to get out. Some are just looking very strategically for financial planning. So it's a fun business. You got to know everything from restaurants to manufacturing pallets to distributing toiletries to everything you can think of.
It's exceptionally diverse, isn't it?
Yes, very much.
You wouldn't get time to be bored, I don't think.
No.
You're forever learning those industries.
You're always learning more and more about different industries.
Into the whole business, yeah. And Bob, when you look back with you, I know you love what you do, but I mean, I haven't asked you this in a long time. I mean, have you thought about it since? I mean, would you still be riding bulls, mate?
Yeah, I'd still be riding bulls. But even the best,
with broken necks and backs,
the best of the rodeo, you have to have something else. So inventing doors and opening doors and creating success for people. I really love this part of the job. So
that's excellent.
I'll stick with
the one thing we never touched on, Bryan and Beau, the money side of it for your world. People know they pay a commission to realtors. They know they pay, in lots of industries, there's a commission paid, as with finance and all sorts of things. How does it work in your world? Is it based on a percentage of the business you sell for, or do you negotiate certain terms? How does it work?
Right. The short answer is it's a settled fee, whether it's a percentage or a flat fee. Yeah.
Okay.
That's paid at the close, and there's no one range or one amount, right? As far as that goes, it's just a negotiated amount that's paid after the close of the sale.
No, it's pretty simple, isn't it? And no doubt the same for you, Beau?
Yeah. We get paid when we sell. You know, that when our clients get paid, that's when we get paid.
Funny about that, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
I get the job done first.
Yep.
Before I make a quid.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I wish there was a few more that understood that world.
No, and that's the beauty about what we both do is we open ourselves up to no obligation, no fee.
Right.
At any point you come and you talk to us, we'll provide an opinion of value of the business.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, if it's a time to sell, then absolutely, we'd love to help you do that. If there's something else we can provide for you to retool and sell 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the line to get where you need to be, happy to do that as well.
Well, I've learned a lot today. Bryan Vitagliano is a business broker, and a hell of a good one, I imagine, with the Business Brokers Group. That's the Strategic Business Brokers Group. And you can get Bryan at strategicbusinessgroup.com. Anyway, it'll be on the site on Tucson Business Radio X site. It'll be up there within the next 24, 48 hours, so you'll be able to get everything you want. Beau Barger, business broker, vice president of Tucson Business Investments. Thank you, Beau. I've learned a lot today. I appreciate it. It was enjoyable. And, of course, Bob Dytko, here from Stewart Title, the wonderful company. They're based, corporate offices are here, but how many branch offices have you got now all over the place?
We've got 6 in Tucson.
6 in Tucson alone, huh? Uh-huh. Yeah. And, very big company. And he's vice president of social media, marketing, and education liaison.
Yes.
You haven't got a new stripe or anything since?
No.
That's enough to give you a visit.
They don't want to print new cards, so I said just leave it.
There you go. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you, Beau. Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks,
pleasure. Thank you.